Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Richard Branson.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Forum 1.
Thank you for that lovely welcome, and you're all having a good time. Anyway, what a beautiful day today was. And, I went ballooning here today. What a beautiful city you have. So anyway, thank you for having us.
Well, really, thanks for being here. We've been waiting for you. I'd like to ask you a bunch of questions, maybe some of the stuff we asked Rudolph yesterday. Let's do a chronology, and then we can go wherever you want with it. But let's go back to the schoolboy Richard Branson. Your heroes or influences, you as a lad. Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I was like most teenagers. I was a 15-year-old schoolboy. There were a lot of things in the world that were not going very well. There was the Vietnamese War that was taking place. I suppose a bit like our version of the Iraqi War in this day and age. It was a war that we felt was unjust and it was wrong, and decided to start a magazine to campaign against it and give young people a voice. And the magazine became my education. And I met many fascinating people through it. I learned the art of survival because I didn't have any money, so I had to run the magazine and get enough advertising to pay for the printing in the paper of it. And through interviewing people, I just learned a lot about life. So it was a fascinating education.
Was that your first business?
I think. I never thought of going into business because I think that the definition of business was didn't sound that interesting or that good. But when you actually realise that business is simply making a positive difference to other people's lives and setting up an organisation that makes a positive difference to other people's lives. Then, by setting up a magazine, effectively one was running a business, and at the end of the year, hopefully more money comes in than goes out, and effectively that's what a business is. So, my principal interest was editing a magazine, running a magazine, achieving something from running the magazine. The byproduct was hopefully that more money came in than went out at the end of the year, so we carry on for another year.
Well, whatever you're in, or whatever you call it, you're in it big right now. So how do you go from your first money coming in and going out, I'm guessing the record shop on Oxford, to what you've got now, which is a lot of things with money coming in and going out. Can you give us an overview of how do you go from one record shop to hot over the next?
Well, I think that the best way of creating something is often through personal frustration. So, for instance, I was once in Puerto Rico, and I was trying to get to the British Virgin Islands, and the American airline that I was trying to fly on announced that they weren't flying that day. They cancelled the flight. And there were about 70 people at the airport who wanted to get to the Virgin Islands. Now, I was 26 years old. I had a beautiful girl waiting for me in the Virgin Islands. I was going to not get there till the next day, so I was determined to get there that night. And so I went and hired a plane, and I got a blackboard, and I wrote Virgin Airlines, $29 single way, and I went around all the people who were bumped, and I filled up my plane, and it was effectively our trial flight for Virgin Airlines. And when I got back to England, I thought, yeah, airlines do bump people, they don't treat people very well. So I rang up Boeing and said, hello, my name's Richard Branson, I have a record company. I would like to buy a second-hand 747. They said, you know, what's your record company do? I said, well, we have the Sex Pistols, we have the Rolling Stones. Anyway, they were good enough to take me seriously, to listen to me, and their only concern was that with a name like Virgin, would this airline go the whole way? Anyway, in the end, they sent a salesperson to England. We managed to get one second-hand 747 started an airline. So I think the best businesses are where you see, you know, I could do it better. You know, I think it may be through your personal hobby, or it may be through business you're already in. Maybe through a medical situation. You know, I could do it a lot better than they're doing it. And if you feel you can do it a lot better, then screw it, just do it. You have a business. The reason Virgin has gone into so many different areas is that I love learning about new things, and I love if I think something's not been done well, we'll just say, we'll just give it a go.
So, were you ever wrong going into that market? And or, a question we've been asking to some of our speakers, what was your biggest failure along the way? How did you pull out of it, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think the most spectacular failure that we ever had started as one of our biggest successes, and that was, we rather cheekily thought we could take on Coca-Cola. And we had a soft drink that tasted as good, if not better. We had a brand, Virgin Cola, and the brand was, it was a young, youthful, sexy brand. And we launched in the UK initially. And we started, everywhere that we sold, we were outselling Coke and Pepsi put together. So, so for about a year, it really looked like we were going to knock Coke from the #1 brand in the world, and Virgin Cola was going to replace them. What we didn't know was that there was an English woman working at Coca-Cola in Atlanta at the time, and she went to the president of Coke, and initially he didn't take it seriously, and then she managed to persuade him that Virgin could maybe replace Coke. It had a strong global brand, and they ended up getting a 747. They filled it with what they called the SWAT teams. They filled it with bags of money. They arrived in the UK, and everywhere that Virgin Cola was on sale, it just started disappearing off the shelves. And they crushed us. And the lesson we learned from that was, if you're going to do something, make sure you're massively better. So even if the big guys bring out their guns, you can still beat them. But when British Airways tried to do that to Virgin Atlantic, because Virgin Atlantic was so much the better airline, they didn't succeed. Whereas when Coke did it, because we were just 2 cans of cola, they could use their might to crush us.
So your new book is the title of this session, and by the way, why don't you go ahead and email your question, and if we have time, I'll take them off the bat. Like a Virgin, secrets they won't teach you in business school, so whatever secrets.
Well, look, I think, perhaps the biggest secret is quite a big question mark. If you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you actually need to be in business school. I think that if you have an idea, the best way of learning about running a business is to get out and do it. And you may fall flat on your face, but pick yourself up and learn from that failure. I mean, one thing I've learned about this country is that it doesn't accept failure as much as it should. In America, there are many entrepreneurs that try things, fail once, try things, fail once, and succeed on the third time. And a country that's going to be truly entrepreneurial must accept that people who try should be, praised and lauded for trying, and they can learn from it. Because most people who try in business don't necessarily succeed the first time. Obviously, if you're going for a science degree or a technical degree, or becoming a doctor or a lawyer, or there's plenty of reasons to go to university. But learning to become an entrepreneur, I'm not sure that necessarily it's something that business schools can teach you a lot. The good thing about going to university is it's an insurance policy in case your business does fail. Not just once, but twice, but 3 times, and then obviously you have a degree where you can go and get a respectable job. But I think that a lot of business people I know, they're running their businesses age 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're not saddling themselves with the debt of going to university to learn business, and they're just getting on and doing it.
I'd like to ask you about your new or recent, extremely ambitious enterprise. Before I do, I just want to sort of set the scene. I hope I'm not romanticizing this too much, but I'm doing a little homework on you and your bio for this interview. Is your birthday July 18th, 1950? Is that correct? Is Wikipedia?
That's correct.
Okay, good. So in my mind, I'm reading this and I'm thinking, okay, that means that July 16th of 1969, the Apollo capsule takes off from Earth. 2 days later, you turn 19 years old. It's your last year teenage year, and that capsule's happening in the moon. 2 days after that, you land on the moon, you walk on the moon. Everybody's watching. Can you set the scene for us? Were you watching?
I certainly was watching. It was a black and white television, which is all we had in those days. Kennedy's assassination, 9/11. I mean, there's 3 or 4 things in life that really, you can never forget. And the moon landing was definitely the most pleasant of them all. I assumed that I would one day be going to the moon, and that many of us would one day be going to space. But because space has been run by governments, they haven't really been interested in you or me going to space. So, out of frustration again, in 1992, I registered the name Virgin Galactic Airways. I loved the name. Had nothing more than that, just the name. And then I got on an aeroplane and I started traveling the world, talking to scientists and engineers, and looking for a genius who could build a spaceship and build a mothership and build a spaceport and fulfill the dream of, I think, hundreds of millions of people who would love to go to space.
Well, that genius is in this next video. If we can roll that and take a look at exactly what we're talking about.
The exploration of space will go ahead.
Just, the 4 questions you're all thinking: when, and how much? The end of this year, I'll be going up. My children will be going up, and we have 600 people who signed up to go up from your beautiful country. We have nearly a full spaceship. We have five people going up together, and Gladys, who actually persuaded me to come to speak today, and has generously given quite a big donation to charity, as a thank you. He's leading the charge. Where is he? Where's Gladys? Stand up. Leading the charge how? Is Gladys going up?
He's going up.
Gladys is going up? There's Gladys. So Gladys would be the first Lithuanian in space.
And he's also taking 5 other people up in the spaceship, four of whom I met today. So he's...
Are they the 4 that we had pitched why they should be the first Lithuanian woman in space? Because we did that earlier.
Oh no, well, we'd love to have a woman. That's one thing we haven't got yet in the first spaceship. So Gladys would be the person to talk to.
Okay, well, NASA had that.
But I think the as far as price is concerned, if you go up in a Russian spaceship, it's $50 million, so a rather horrendous price. Our price is not great; it's $200,000. But I think over a decade from now, the price will come down. And so it's people like Gladys and other people who are helping helping us launch the whole program. The aim is to get it down to a price where hopefully many people in this room who would love to go to space one day will be able to afford to go. As a matter of interest, is there anybody in this room who would like to go to space? Okay, there's quite a few people who would like to go to space. So I think so it's an exciting challenge for us to try to make as many people in this room astronauts one day as possible, and hopefully we'll be able to do so.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on just what sounds so banal, but what you must be thinking about with just customer experience, right? When you think about customer experience, you're talking about the most cosmic customer experience ever. And what is that like? What's the fantasy in you?
Look, I think I like to dream. I've always liked to dream, and I like to try to make my dreams become reality. As you can get older in life, and as you get more experience at what you're doing, you can dream bigger. And I like to think the sky's not the limit. You can dream. You can dream bigger. And if you can get around you a wonderful group of people. I mean, we've got 300 of the best engineers and technicians in the world now working for us. And if you can let them dream big, they can start dreaming about putting people into space. Then they can start dreaming about maybe putting satellites into space, which at much cheaper prices than in the past, and therefore they can bring telephony to 2 billion people who can't afford to get telephones, and they can bring the price of internet access or Wi-Fi access or telephone access down for everybody else in the world. If you ask them to think about point-to-point air travel at 10 times the speed of sound, they may or they may not pull it off, but at least you get them thinking and dreaming. I mean, I went to actually it's with Gladys, a bunch of students and ex-students who are in this city coming up with wonderful new ideas, technological breakthroughs, including satellite technology. Incredibly exciting, and so he's getting people to dream. I'm trying to get people to dream. Say to them, we want a hotel in space. Dream it, make it happen. They may or they may not succeed, but we want to go to Mars one day. Let's try to go. I mean, so unless you actually, unless you set people these challenges, it won't happen. And it may not happen if you set them those challenges. But life's enormous fun trying, and I think mankind can overcome, I think, most challenges. I mean, the biggest challenge on Earth at the moment may well be global warming, and it may well need a technological breakthrough to cure the woe of global warming. I mean, we've put up a $25 million prize, and which is open to anybody in this room, to say, if you can come up with a way of extracting carbon out of the Earth's atmosphere, and it has to be a certain amount of carbon, then you can effectively balance the Earth's temperature. And if you succeed in doing that, we'll give you a $25 million prize. I mean, it's a big prize. aimed at effectively sorting out the world's problems of global warming. Now, we don't necessarily expect anyone to win that prize, but at least it's getting, we've got 10,000 technicians and scientists around the world thinking about it. Prizes have been very effective ways in the history. I mean, like the longitude prize was set up by George III in England. Before the longitude prize was won, 1 in every 2 ships that left the ports from Lithuania or from London went on reefs. Once they could work out what longitude and latitude was, it didn't happen anymore. The X Prize resulted in $10 million X Prize in Spaceship One, which was the craft our test craft, that is now resulting in Spaceship Two. So prizes are a very effective way of getting people to overcome technological problems, and we need people to really dig deep and in order to sort out the problems of people.
And it's this audacious tweak on the maxim of think global, act local. It's think global, act cosmic, right? Let's switch actually. Let's go back to local and talk about not just this wonderful city, but also this country. In fact, I'll go down in my pocket and I'll take a look at some of your questions. How about Eastern Europe? How about Lithuania? How about this post-Soviet countries? Where do you see business going in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Well, I've spent one very full day in this country, starting at 6 o'clock this morning, and I think I've learned quite a lot about this country. You're a very educated country, which I think puts you well ahead of a lot of other countries. I think there seem to be people, with a lot of determination to be successful and to achieve things. I went to your wonderful sort of power station, which I know was set up in the Soviet times, where you've got the 300-foot drop and it powers a lot of your electricity, which was incredibly impressive. But I also talked to people today about the amount of power you have to import from Russia and other places, and it just got me thinking that your country could be, if you set the target and said, right, by 2020 we are going to be carbon neutral. We're not going to import any fuel from any other country. We've got sun, we've got wind, we've got water. We can use batteries, battery power. We should debate the nuclear issue again. I think that to set a target like that would create thousands of jobs. You could get the universities behind it, you could get the schools behind it. Everybody just saying, right, from 2020, we're going to be carbon neutral. We're going to set an example for the rest of the world. All that money that you're sending overseas would stay within your country. Tens of thousands of jobs would be created, and the world needs countries to become carbon neutral. You would set the most fantastic example to the rest of the world, but it wouldn't cost you. It would make you money, and it needs that kind of determination, I think. Anyway, go for it.
Well, we got the, I'm going to hit refresh on the app and I'll ask you whichever is trending most. We've got a lot of questions here. No, this one. Dear Sir Richard, please share with us one typical day in your life in truth.
I'm lucky. I don't really have a typical day.
This wasn't your first hot air balloon, it's not.
No, it was actually, but I haven't flown in a hot air balloon for a few years, and I used to, I used to have wonderful adventures flying hot air balloons. We tried to break the Atlantic record to cross the Atlantic, and then having achieved that, the Pacific, and then we made many attempts to try to go around the world in a hot air balloon. And I ended up in the sea 6 out of the 7 times, rescued by helicopters, and so so we now sponsor London's ambulance helicopter service as a thank you. But anyway, today was a very nice day. We didn't end up in the sea, but we ended up with a very angry female farmer who was farming her cows. And
I heard you landed in the field with cows, and presumably a Lithuanian.
Yeah, she wasn't. She wasn't very happy.
Had a word or two with Serena about infringing on her cattle, which I don't blame her.
No, so it's one of the perils of being a brunist. But anyway, I mean, look, my life is. I'm a great believer in saying yes rather than saying no, and that you get more out of life by saying yes than saying no. I think if you get yourself into a position where you can make a difference, you have to get out there and not waste that position.
It's an excellent intro to this video that I'd like to show in the next series of questions I'd like to ask.
Well, I think that governments try to do a lot of good in society. Social workers try to do a lot of good in society. Businesses do a lot of good by the difference they make in the businesses they create. But I think that we need to try to get every single business in the world to adopt a problem and become a force for good. And I think if we can do that, we can get on top of most of the problems in this world. By doing so, we call it Virgin Unite because it unites the 60,000 people who work for Virgin. They have a purpose above just running the train company or running the airline company. They have a higher purpose, and they can see that the hard work they're putting in, is making a real difference in the world. And the advantage that entrepreneurs have is that they do see situations, perhaps slightly differently than politicians or social workers, and they can use their entrepreneurial skills to look at maybe conflicts or look at global warming or look at the species in the sea and think of a more effective way of protecting them than the conventional way that social workers have done it today. So we have a lot of fun. I mean, I think throughout our businesses, throughout our social work, we're great believers in making sure that everybody who works with Virgin has a great time, has a lot of fun doing it. But with Virgin Unite, we have fun making a real difference, and it's very satisfying as well.
So, can doing good business or doing good lead to good business? Do sacrifices have to be made? Do you not get to take it out of profit, or do you feel like there's some kind of holistic idea that if you do good, you will actually prosper more than doing neutral or doing even more?
It may cost you a bit more, but what is a company? A company is simply a group of people working together. Now, if those group of people are simply working for a shareholder who's getting richer, they may not be quite as satisfied as if they're working for a company that is trying to, a small company that's trying to sort out, the local problems in the area. A bigger company that's trying to sort out the national problems. A bigger company still trying to sort out some of the international problems. And so if that group of people who are working for your company feel, wow, this is a company I can be really proud of working for. When I go out to the pub at night, and my friends say, what's the name of the company you work for? You're really proud to say that name of that company, and to be able to talk about it. I mean, that's powerful stuff, and I think that's really good for the business. So it might cost a little bit more in the short term, but in the long term, you have a company that people can be proud of, but also by sorting out the problems of society. Ultimately, then, if every company can do that, you create a wealthier, happier society, which ultimately will be good for companies generally.
Well, let's talk about that idea of teamwork. And I know teamwork seems very important to you. Of course, you're larger in life, and you are a very successful leader. But you can't do any of this, even close. Well, you can't even run the record shop without a team. So what's the most important aspect of teamwork?
Well, I think the best advice I can give anybody who runs a company, anybody who runs a department of a company, is learn to delegate. Find somebody who's better than yourself to take over your job. Let those people get on and do everything you've been doing, and don't second guess them. Let them make mistakes. Let them make good things. But then stand back and think about the bigger picture. And I was lucky. I did that from an early age. It's meant that I've been able to see my children grow up. I haven't been divorced. I've been very happily married. So my family life has been successful, and my business life's been successful. And the companies have been that much more successful because I can think about the bigger picture. I can afford the time to come to Lithuania and talk to people, and hopefully they can learn something. I mean, it's important to be. The art of delegation is so important, and so few leaders learn the art of delegation. People are frightened of delegating. They're frightened of letting other people do their day-to-day work. They're frightened that somebody might be better than them, and so on. But a true leader is a real good delegator.
It's a nice interaction to what happens next, because we have an excellent team. I'm going to have you hold on to that microphone, and we're going to have you send us off with one last question. It's actually a two-part question, but before we do that, we have a wonderful ceremony for you. I'm going to go ahead and stand up, and I'd like to introduce you to the Senate delegates and the delegation from the Kaunas University of Technology. Oh yes, give it up for... Well, they're in there, yes.